Hey guys, Phil from Trail Talk here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 2022 Trek bikes. All right, so let's jump straight into it. So the first bike we'll take a look at is probably the Roscoe, because I know a lot of you are really keen on that Roscoe. So let's check it out. It's got a new frame for this year, so they've made a lot of changes. The old one was still kind of more on the XC side of kind of like a more trail hardtail. So it's good to see now it's got through axles and decent geometry. So let's dig in. So got 140 mil of travel now. As I said, better geometry. We'll go in and have a look at the geometry, dig down, have a look at the builds. So we'll jump onto that entry-level build. It's good to see that all the builds have dropper posts, which is awesome. But yeah, let's take a look. Again, Australian pricing, so it might be a little bit different where you are, but can get a good gauge on value here. So looks like the entry-level build might still have a quick release rear axle. Let's see where that changes in the lineup. Don't want to have to keep going back and forth. We'll take a look at the 7. So take a look at the rear axle here. So it looks like you're getting that bolt through rear axle there. So that through axle on the 7 by the looks of it. So you're spending around $2,199 to get that through axle. But we'll just double check, confirm. Looks like the 6, we'll dig into the geometry of it. It might use potentially the old frame. So yeah, definitely looks like it might be the old frame on that one. So the 7 still uses, yeah, it's definitely not the same frame as the other ones by the looks of it. So yeah, plus, so we'll jump into the 7 then, because that's going to be the main ones that we'll probably recommend if you want that new Geo. So we'll take a look at that stuff now. So as you can see, the head tube angle, yeah, it's a fair bit slacker on this one, so 65 degrees. So you're getting that good frame on the 7, so starting off there. So $21.99, I believe the price was. Yeah, nice color frame, 1 by drivetrain, dropper post. You're getting, it looks like a RockShox Recon by the looks of it. Yeah, so Recon Silver, 140 mil travel, boost front and rear. It's good to see. MT, in terms of brakes, you're getting, we go on past the brakes, MT200, so entry level Shimano brakes there. Looks like you're getting this again 12 speed, so Shimano M6100 there. So not too bad at that price. There's definitely a few better value hardtails around this kind of price point, but you are getting some really nice geometry there. So it was a 65 head angle, 74.7 degrees seat angle by the looks of it. And then short seat tubes as well. The reach is pretty long too, from what I remember. So reach 470 on that size large. So really, really nice. Then like Trek, you've got some in-between sizes to get that medium large or medium long. So you can kind of take advantage of that there. So yeah, not bad. Nice tall stack too, which is good to see. I'm more of a trail hardtail. So pretty good around. We'll take a look at the next build up. So kind of at the top of the range, top of the value kind of you're looking in Australia is probably that Merida Big Trail, which is around 2,500, and you're getting a Marzocchi Z2. It looks like you're going to be getting that that RockShox 35 up front, which I'm not a huge fan of. Yeah, so 35. So it's not bad, but it's not as good as I'd prefer something like a Revelation where you get that, you can upgrade to that charger damper. So you are kind of limited with the 35 gold there. But other than that, it's not too bad. But I probably think there's some better value bikes in the market, but I think it's a good frame. So if you are looking for a good frame from a bike shop brand with some good geometry as well, I think it's going to be a great platform to have a bit of fun on. So value might not be there compared to a few of the other ones. So kind of going to give it average to good value there. But I think it's a really good bike. And if you can afford it, I think it's a good option. But I do think there's some better spec bikes out there for the money with some pretty similar geometry as well. So that's my thoughts on that one so far. So we'll dig into the Fuel EX. We'll have a quick look at the the Marlin, because I know a lot of people are going to be interested in that bike too. Had a quick look at this when I was doing my research for the budget buyer's guide. So pretty much finished that now in terms of the script writing and stuff like that. But the Marlin 7 is probably where you want to be. It's where you're getting that one by drivetrain. Or is we'll take a look at the Marlin, the Marlin 6. So $899 really isn't too bad for getting it more of for a one by drivetrain. I think that's a pretty decent value proposition there. So one by drivetrain, hydraulic disc brakes, it's not too bad. It is definitely more on the XC side of things. So if you're looking for more of an XC style bike, I think this could be a good option. But I do think if you're looking for wanting to push the descents a little bit more, something that can grow with you a bit more as you start to progress your riding and you're not sticking to more fire trails, smoother single track and stuff like that, I think there's better options. But if you're looking for just a do it all kind of mountain bike, commuter, and that kind of style of bike, which a lot of these more entry level mountain bikes are, it's not too bad. I think that's a decent value there. You're getting, in terms of geometry and stuff like that, you'll see kind of how conservative is on the side of things. So 69.5-degree head angle, when there's some other more bikes around this kind of price point, like that Polygon Extrada, Bobcat Trail, the Marin that I've got as well, they're kind of more around 67-degree head angles. So they're going to give you a bit more confidence on the descents. But I think if you're just doing fire trails and going around town and stuff like that, I think this one's a good value option from a bike shop. Yeah. So that would be the one that I'd probably recommend in the lineup. There's no point really spending much more than this on this kind of style of bike. You're not really going to be getting much performance benefits out of it. So that's kind of the main hardtails. There's the XC race hardtails as well, but we won't go too much into that. We'll go into the Fuel EX because this is what most people are going to be looking at when they think Trek. So when we're looking at that Marlin, again, for that build there, I think it's good value for what it's intended to do. So kind of more of that kind of just general commuting, fire trails, just a do-it-all kind of bike. That's what most people are going to be getting it for. But if you're looking on the more trail side of things, I think you kind of average to a bit meh because it's not really, the geometry is not really there for a more trail hardtail, but that's not what it's designed to do. So I wouldn't look too deep into that. But let's take a look at the Fuel because I know a lot of people, when they think Trek, they think Fuel. This is their do-it-all trail bike. So let's take a look at the bikes. So go all this fancy stuff with reactive and frame storage, all that cool stuff. So you got the active brake pivot, active braking pivot linkage. So essentially, instead of having a horse link, so your pivot's on the chainstay and then a fork spar linkage actuated single pivot where it's on the seat stay. It's in right where the axle is. So it's going to give you a bit more, suspension's going to be a bit more active under braking. That's essentially the reasoning behind it. But we'll take a look at the Fuel EX. So where's the 2022 ones? So look at the EX5, so the entry-level build. It looks like they've continued bridging this over. So it's 2021, 2022. So not too bad. So $3,499. So that's kind of around Siskiyou T8 money. So that's kind of what you're looking at. And to be honest, like for that kind of price, the spec's not really the best. But again, it's a bit more of a bike shop brand. It's going to be a bit more expensive, but you're getting that Recon Silver, X-Fusion rear shock, which I know finding parts for that shock is very painful, and volume spaces and stuff like that as well. So that's something to take into consideration. Drivetrain, you're still getting 12-speed Dior. So not too bad there. If you're looking to build on the frame a bit, then it could be a good option, but you're looking at upgrading the rear shock as well as the fork eventually as well. So that's something to take into consideration. Brakes, we'll take a look at what brakes you have there as well. So MT201. So you can get them to perform okay with decent rotors and decent pads, but not necessarily the best there either. But I do like the geometry on the Fuels. I think it makes it a good versatile do-it-all bike. The seat angle's not crazy steep like most of the other bikes, but I think a lot of people are riding this on the flat, more flowy stuff, up and down undulating stuff where it might not be super, super steep climbs. So I don't think you need that ridiculously steep seat angle, but it would be nice to see it maybe a degree steeper or stuff like that, but it's not too bad. So 70, so depending on where you are in the flip chip, so good to see there's a flip chip as well. We'll go across to the large because that's what we compare everything on. So you're in 66 or 66.5, depending on, as I said, the flip chip position now 75, 75.5. So there, and then reach 470, 475. So right where I really want it to be. The stack isn't the highest, so that's something to take into consideration. So you might want the bars a little bit higher for a bit more comfort, but it's not too bad. Just double checking on terms of the wheel sizes. So it looks like small and extra small are 27.5, and then medium to medium large, extra large, large, and those ones are all 29. So not too bad there. It's not groundbreaking geometry, but just the job done. It's going to be a good versatile bike, and I think for someone like Trek, that makes sense. They want to appeal to a large audience, and to be honest, I think that's what most people probably need, not these super, super long bikes. But probably not my favorite model in the lineup in terms of value. I usually tend to like the EX8's probably usually my pick of the bunch because you're getting deep. But at 5,299, again, not really the best in terms of spec, but it's not terrible. But again, not the best there. But the EX7, we'll check what. So you're getting a decent shock there, but it looks like you're getting that RockShox 35 fork on that one as well. Yeah, so at that kind of price point, it would be nice to see something like a Z2 or a Revelation or something like that, and you're getting NX Eagle. So yeah, it wouldn't be my first pick there, but yeah, the EX8. But at that point, if you're spending that kind of money, it could be worthwhile thinking of going carbon and another brand and stuff like that. But yeah, not too bad here. You're getting, I believe, let's double check this 2022 model. Yep. So, I mean, compared to stuff that we saw from YT and Canyon at this kind of price point, it's not the best there. But yeah, you get 34 rhythm, stuff like that. So you're getting pretty similar spec to something like the Siskiyou T that we've been seeing. So you get like XT, but SLX some other stuff. Then brakes, you're still getting the entry level 4 pistons from Shimano as well. So again, not the best. You're spending an extra 1.5 to 1,700 grand over something like the Polygon Siskiyou T8, and you're not really getting anything more in terms of performance. So yeah, not the best value, but to be had. So it's kind of average to good there. I'd probably say more on the average side, and yeah, I would, yeah, definitely more average. So again, not the best, but I do like the way that the Treks ride. They're just really nice and active over the chunky stuff, but don't pedal too badly either. Some people do prefer them, put them in that middle position when they're climbing them because they are a little bit more on the active side, but again, not too bad. So that's my thoughts kind of on the EX. We'll have a quick look at the top fuel. So the top fuel is kind of more of so they'd say that's kind of like the mid-travel trail bike. The top fuel is kind of like the more shorter travel trail bike. So you've got 120 instead of the little bit extra on the fuel. I think the fuel is like 130, 140 around that. We'll just double check that because I don't want to say anything wrong. So travel on that normal fuel is 140 in the front, 130 in the rear. So didn't have to go back and check it. So we'll dig into that top fuel now. Get rid of that. So the fuel's definitely been getting bigger and longer. So a lot of people that would have liked the fuel back in the old days might prefer the top fuel these days because bikes are getting more capable. So people with that longer and extra suspension that you're going to getting on that fuel now, people might prefer the ride feel of the top fuel because the top fuel very much used to be XC. Now it's more proper kind of trail bike. So where's the bikes in the lineup? Did I go past it? Okay, see the bikes. All right, 2022. Let's take a look at these bikes. So it's exact same pricing as the normal fuel. So 5,299 for that EX8 versus the normal fuel, the top fuel there. So same pricing. We'll look at that top fuel here. So 34.99 again, Siskiyou T kind of money here. And again, that same kind of spec as the spec's not changing between these bikes. So it's pretty comparable. So we won't dig too much into the spec. We'll just take a quick look at the geometry of the bikes. So seat angle is a little bit steeper. So it's good for climbing. Head angle doesn't change really at all. So it's going to be more, do you prefer a more playful poppy ride, or do you prefer to have a little bit more forgiveness in your ride? That would be my main consideration when picking between the two bikes. So if you're not doing any super chunky stuff, or you're not doing bigger drops and stuff like that, you just want a more versatile trail bike, it might be worthwhile going onto the top fuel instead of the normal fuel. But we'll take a look at the reaches as well. Reach is actually slightly longer by the looks of it. So yeah, not big difference between the bike. For kind of where I'm in Southeast Queensland, where I've got a lot more XC flowy trails, not super crazy chunk and stuff like that, the top fuel would probably be a better option for most people versus the normal fuel. It's just going to be a bit more of a playful ride, can pump through the corners and rollers a bit more. So that would be, if you're picking between the two, that would be the questions that I'd be asking myself, because the geometry is not really that different. So is it worth you carrying around the extra 10, 15 mil travel when you need it, or is it worthwhile just kind of when those really sketchy situations come up that you be a little bit more careful? But yeah, I think for me, something like the top fuel would probably be a better option. But we'll dig into the next bike. So we'll have a look. So we've done those. We'll have a look at the Slash now. So the Slash is their enduro bike. So big burly, like you can tell the frame these days, it's chunky frame. So it's almost looking session beefiness there in terms of the frame. So I've heard a lot of good things about this bike, the way that it rides. A lot of people have been saying some good things. So let's dig into the geometry of it. Where can we learn more about the actual bikes? Well, I'm probably going right past it. There we go. It was right at the top. Okay, so it looks like there's a flight attendant version, but $16,000 in Australian. So probably not going to be tickling the fancy for most people. But we'll have a look at the Slash 7 is the entry level build. So we'll look at the 2022 model. So this is kind of 5299. So decent price here. So alloy frame, but it doesn't look like, for that kind of price, it would be nice to see few different specs on there. Believe the Slash in the alloy frames has frame storage as well, which is good to see. Just double check on the fuel if that's the case. I'm not sure, but we'll just double check that. I'd like to, because that's a big selling point for a lot of people. Don't want to miss that out. So take a quick look. I know it's on the carbon, but I'm not sure. So it's the carbon modders feature it on that, but alloy on the Slashes feature it, which I think is a big selling point for a lot of people. I think the frame storage is really handy, especially on those big days. You don't want to be carrying a backpack, so that's handy. But the spec on this one could be a little bit better for the money. I believe we're getting an inline shock instead of a piggyback shock. You're getting a Yari there, so it would be nice to see something like with a piggyback. Then you just need to upgrade the charger damper in that Yari. So not necessarily the best compared to other things that we've been seeing. I do like Trek wheels; they perform really well. Good engagement there as well. That's something that they do well with. Their Bontrager stuff's usually pretty good. Brakes. So again, there's MT420, so entry level Shimano 4 pistons. So not the best spec there. The geometry is really good. So the large, so we're looking 64.1 head angle, 64.6, depending on where you're on the flip chip, 75.6 versus 76. I've heard a few people say they'd like the seat angle a little bit steeper, but it's not too bad there. Like people might say like 60, maybe have like 76 or 77-ish. But I think 76 in that high position is not too bad. Reach, 486 or 491, depending on where you're in. So really roomy reach there. And then wheelbase, you're kind of getting 1.26 meters around there. So 1264 millimeters. So it's going to be a nice stable bike. Eats up the trunk really well. So the ride manners of the bike, I've heard are really good. Spec might not be the best for the money, but you do get that frame storage and stuff like that. But it would be nice to see some slightly better suspension at this price point. And those brakes aren't necessarily the best either, but I'm making excuses for them. It should be a bit better. But we'll take a look at should be the /8 build. So it looks like this one's carrying over for 2022. They're kind of doing a 2021, 2022 model. So this time, at least you're getting that super deluxe, you're getting the lyrics, so charger damper, and then you're getting that piggyback on the rear shock. So it's good to see that stuff. GX Eagle drivetrain. So I think this would be the one that I would probably pick in terms of value, but there are some better spec bikes on the market. So not necessarily best, but I do really like the bike itself. So if we're going to give it a rating, probably average in terms of what you're getting for the money, but I think the way that the bike rides would be a good riding bike. So yeah, definitely from a bike shop brand. There's a few better ones out there in terms of value, but it's not terrible. It's not the worst that I've seen, but the bikes are really good. So that's something that you have to factor in when you're buying these bikes. And then also buying from a bike shop as well, you've got that local support there as well. So I'll take a quick look at the session. So it's the downhill bike. Everything looks like a session, but the session, it's got like that active pivot there with the high pivot as well. So the idler there. So, I mean, you're getting the best of both worlds there. So high pivot as well as pretty active under braking. So a lot of high pivots aren't the most active under braking. That's one of the negatives that they do have. But that also means that they do stay pretty level when you're kind of on the steeper stuff. It preserves the geometry of the bike, but this looks like it's the best of both worlds on there. So yeah, again, the value is probably not going to be the best here, but we'll take a look at the bikes. I think if you're looking for a fast downhill rate, I mean, that's not too bad. So you're getting, it looks like there's only one option here. So in the US, there might be more, but I've definitely seen it's not too bad in terms of downhill. Like this is the alloy build, so that's something to factor in there, but it's not terrible in terms of pricing. I've seen more expensive downhill bikes, but don't ride too many bikes. But I mean, the adjustability that you get out of this bike is pretty crazy. So you can mull it, you can adjust the progression of the suspension, which is really good for people tuning when they're racing. Like depending on the track, you might want a more progressive setup, or you might want to run a coil or air shock. You can adjust it there. I know a lot more people prefer to do that as opposed to adjusting it in the shock itself, that you can adjust it in the leverage of the suspension. So that's something pretty cool there. Growing chainstay length depending on the sizes. So all cool stuff. So not too bad there in terms of that. And the geometry is pretty standard these days. So 63 head angle. It's R sizes, so just size based on your reach. The seat tube stays the same. So for me, I'd probably go something like that R2. So it's like the numbers are rare, or they're where you want it to be for a downhill race bike. So yeah, I think if you're looking for a downhill race bike that's fast and capable, it's probably a good option for you. But that's the main ones. We'll take a look at the Remedy as well. So the Remedy, I can't remember the last time the Remedy was updated. I think it was a fair while ago from my recollections, from what I recall, sorry. So the Remedy is the 27.5 all mountain bike. So nice and fun. So again, the spec's the same, pricing for all those kind of bikes. So the value is not necessarily the best on the market, but I think this is very much 27.5-inch all mountain bikes are a rarity these days. So it's good to see that they've still got them. But the spec's not too bad on this one. Pretty smart. Lyric, super deluxe. I do like Bontrager tires as well. That's good to see. You can fit 2.8 wide tires. So that's cool. And at least you're getting good Shimano brakes there, the M60 100s, so the 4 pistons there. And then we'll take a look. So the geometry is a little bit on the more conservative side, so a bit slacker seat angle, so 74.7 or 74.2. And then reaches slightly on the shorter side, so should make it pretty playful. I think this bike's probably due they'll probably update it soon. Don't know what they'll do in terms of it. Wouldn't surprise me if they don't make it a mullet bike. But yeah, so reach for a large 455 or 460. So not super long there, but again, a 27.5-inch bike. People that are getting this bike, they want to have fun. So yeah, if you're looking for a bike to have fun, that might be a good option. But yeah, the prices, what you're getting for the money, isn't as good as some on the market. So that's the main ones. I mean, you got the Super Caliber and Top Fuel and Excalibur and stuff like that. But I think if you're an XC race nut, you're probably going to get some better information somewhere else. I'm not too into the XC racing, but you get that cool shock that's built into the frame as well. ISO strut, as they like to call it. So it's kind of like a more of a hardtail kind of style with a little bit of forgiveness. I think they've got 60 millimeters of travel off the top of my head. So super light, super fast in the rear. So I think that's got like 100 front, 60 in the rear. I'll just double check to make sure I'm saying the right thing. So yeah, 60 in the rear, 100 up front. Yeah, nice XC race bike if you're interested. And then the Top Fuel is going to be the hardtail version. Oh, sorry, the wrong one. The Excalibur. So the Excalibur is going to be the XC race bike in terms of just a rigid frame. So hardtail. Actually, I believe they should have. There was a Superfly. Where's a Superfly? Can't see it. Maybe they got rid of that because there was. I think it was the Superfly was the hardtail race bike, and then there's the Excalibur, which must be their more. Unless I'm missing something, doesn't look like it. Maybe Pro Caliber. It's been a while since. There we go. So it's the Pro Caliber. Sorry, I've got this wrong. So that's really interesting. How it's got the little. That's pretty cool. Haven't seen this bike before, so forgive me, but that's pretty interesting. How it's got the little linkage kind of thing there. Interesting. That's pretty cool. So we'll have a quick look at the bikes. Only one option. So take a look at this one. So this one's not too bad. I mean, for a carbon XC race bike, that's not the worst spec, the worst price that I've seen for this kind of style of bike. Again, you're not getting the best fork. It would be nice to see something like a Sid, but not too bad for a carbon frame from a big brand like this. Not terrible, but yeah, it looks pretty cool. Let's take a quick look at the geometry just to take a dig. So 68.8, reach is around 450 for a large. So very much classic XC, well, new school classic kind of XC geometry. But yeah, that's a pretty cool bike. Interesting. We'll put it in the interesting category. So we'll take a quick look at in terms of e-bikes, that's probably the last one we'll take a look at. Look at the rail. So Bosch Performance CX. So probably the most torquey kind of motor. A lot of people do really like the Bosch stuff. So battery size looks like you've got a choice there. Good thing about Bosch or Shimano, plenty of support, as I mentioned there. So that's something to take into consideration when you're getting e-bikes for sure. But yeah, we'll take a look at the prices for these. So where's look at the 2022 models. So Rail 5, so 7499. And it looks like you're getting rock sites 35, inline shocks. So you're not getting a piggyback shock until 10,999, which I think's not, because the suspension will be working a little bit harder. It's a bit heavier. So I can imagine those things heating up very quickly. So the spec's not necessarily the smartest, I would say, or the best value, because I mean, you are getting the Domain, I think the new Domain on the 7, but at that point, kind of looking 10 grand. You've got a big burly fork, and then you've got that little inline shock. Doesn't necessarily make this most sense to me. Not a big fan of that display on the Bosches either. It's pretty bulky, but the geometry is not too bad on these bikes. So pretty similar to the kind of in between like a slash and a fuel kind of, say 64.9. Seat angle, say 75 or 75.4, and then reach 460 or 465 or 470 on that large. So yeah, not too bad. I don't think the value's necessarily there compared to a few other bikes. I mean, if you're looking at this, kind of like that Merida 160 in Australia is probably going to give you the value that you want. But if you prefer the Bosch motor, then it could be a good proposition for you. So I'm going to go average to almost meh in value there. But I think that pretty much rounds it up. We'll just double check we haven't missed anything. Look at that. What's that? Don't even really look at the Powerfly. Looked at Rail, Remedy, Roscoe, Session, Slash. Yep. So that's pretty much everything there. If you've got any questions about any of the bikes, working our way through the 2022 lineups, let me know in the comments. I know a few of you were keen on hearing the Trek stuff, so here you go. But yeah, stick around for the rest of until Christmas, and we'll get through most of the other bike brands. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment, and see ya.